Over the last few years, Disney has continued to make more and more live-action remakes of some of their most loved films. This weekend, they released their new live-action remake of The Lion King, and I am here to tell you my view on it. Hello, my name is Andy Funk, and I just started this channel because I love sharing my takes on the things that I watch. This is my first video review, so let's get going. I wanted to talk about the things that make this movie great, and the first thing that comes to mind is the voice cast. Obviously, they had James Earl Jones reprise his role of Mufasa from the original film. I thought this was a great decision because it played up the nostalgia, and obviously he is great in the role in both films. But he's far from the only great cast member in this film. I can't talk about this movie's voice cast without talking about the kid actors. J.D. McCrary and Shahadi Wright were incredible in their roles and brought the right level of youthful fun to bring their characters to life. I remember being blown away the first time I listened to their version of I Just Can't Wait to Be King, and their performances throughout the movie did not disappoint in comparison. JD's acting was especially great after the stampede scene, and I really felt the emotion in that scene. Seth Rogen and Billy Eichner were also very well casted and played really well together. They balanced off each other's energy really well, and I found myself laughing at their scenes maybe even more than I did when I rewatched the original version a few days ago. But the biggest standout for me in this movie's voice acting cast is Chiwetel Ejiofor as Scar. His voice performance had everything that I look for in a villain. Even though Be Prepared was shortened, he did a great job with what was left of it, and I felt like he really got into that scene, and his performance throughout the whole movie really had me invested. The other great thing about this movie is the CGI. Being that the whole film is CGI from beginning to end, it's amazing what they were able to accomplish with this film. If it wasn't for the animals talking and singing throughout, you probably could have convinced me that they actually took some video of some real animals for this movie. The biggest critique of this movie that I've seen from critics is that because they went so photorealistic with the animals, they lost some of the emotion in their facial expressions. For the most part, I actually found myself disagreeing with this critique. Sure, they didn't have the range that you would get from a human character from an animated character, but I felt they still had the emotion in a much more realistic and subtle way that actually made it look like real lions emoting. And whatever it did lack, I thought it made up for in the voice performances. And those two things didn't feel mismatched for me. They felt like they complemented each other really well. So while I do understand this critique, and I do understand why people would want more, it didn't bother me at all. With all of that said, we do have to move on to the negatives of this movie. And while the emotions didn't bother me, the mouth motions kind of did. Not only did they look odd at times, but a lot of the times I didn't think that the visuals of their mouths moving and the audio of what they were saying were really synced particularly well. This pulled me out of the film a few times early on. I'm not sure if it got better as the film went along, or if I just got so invested into the film that I didn't notice it as much as the film went along. But early on, it definitely bothered me. Other than that, though, I actually liked this movie a lot more than a lot of people seem to, and a lot more than I expected to. Now, I watched the original movie just a few days ago, but that was probably the first time I'd watched it in about 15 years. So I definitely don't have the attachment to the original that a lot of people have. so that might have helped. And while there were a couple scenes where I did feel like I was going through the motions of rewatching basically the same thing that I just watched a few days ago, for at least 90% of the movie, it didn't actually bother me because I was so invested in the elements I did like the CGI and the voice acting, that still felt fresh in a way to me personally. On a scale of 0 to 100, I would give this movie a 93. I know I'm probably in a minority scoring it quite that high, but I really loved it and I would consider it one of the best movies that I have seen so far this year. I would recommend this movie if for nothing else for the CGI alone. If you liked this video, be sure to like and subscribe down below, and tell me in the comment section what movie you might like to see me review next. Thank you for tuning in, and please be sure to check it back in a few days as I start to grow this channel and post more.